The creator economy is expected to grow to $500 billion by 2027, according to Goldman Sachs. Ryan Kaji of Ryan's World has turned his toy review YouTube channel into a billion-dollar empire, which now includes branded merchandise, a television series, spin-off channels, licensing deals, and even a new feature film.
Red Titan is finally in the Titan universe.
I just want to get these tools in the hands of the best creators possible so that we start to see a new formats and new types of content.
Ryan's YouTube channel boasts 60 million subscribers and 82 billion lifetime views. 82 billion. Chris Williams, founder and CEO of Pocket.Watch, is the man behind Ryan's World. Williams, a former Google and Disney exec, is the visionary behind this 21st century media juggernaut, which today features the most popular kid stars on the planet. If you aren't familiar with Dan Rhodes, Toys and Colors, Love, Diana, and the Onyx family, it's time to get out from under that rock.
And what does this do? This opens up a whole new world for creators that have desire and skill to now take advantage of these democratic open video platforms in ways that the monetization works on for premium content.
On this episode of Some Future Day, Chris joins me to unlock the commercial intrigue surrounding the creator economy. From his recent encounter with the United States president in the White House to YouTube's monopoly on the industry and AI's imminent impact, we cover it all. I have known Chris since he was 18 years old, and it is safe to say that he is one of the kindest and most inspiring souls on this planet. Chris, I am so proud of you. It is such a thrill to have you on this episode of Some Future Day. Chris Williams is the founder and CEO of the amazing company, the innovative company Pocket.Watch, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today on Some Future Day. Chris, how are you?
I'm thrilled to be here, Mark. You know, I have great affection for you. I don't know if
likewise,
if people know our connection, but we obviously have known each other a very, very long time, since college, where we were both fraternity brothers and you were my pledge master. And I'm just thrilled to be here. I've watched what you've been doing with this podcast and with your incredibly forward-thinking and innovative curiosity. And I love that and want to participate. So I'm just thrilled to be here.
Well, it's really a pleasure, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you're super busy and you're in the middle of rolling out a nationwide film, which we'll get into in a minute, but you also just came back from Washington, D.C. You were at the White House, right?
I did.
What was that about?
Well, when you're invited to the White House, first of all, you say yes. I think that's just a rule, like a basic rule. I have never been invited to the White House before. This was the first ever White House Creator Economy Summit, or conference, I think they actually called it. It was about 100 people, and we had the opportunity to come together for a programmed event with, you know, some speakers and some panels and some breakout sessions in order to tackle, you know, this business is, the creator economy is getting very big. The projections are pretty massive. It's 250 billion this year, projected by 2027 to get to 500 billion. So it's becoming a real big business. And I think government and politicians, like think of them a little bit separately, are very interested in the creator economy. And, you know, the highlight of this was, you know, we got about half an hour with the president, which was pretty incredible. And it was the first time in my life that I had met a president, although I've known Kamala since she was the DA of San Francisco. So if she wins, I will have known a president as well. But it was pretty awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about this. It's really interesting, actually. So how many of your peers, how many people from the creator economy joined you in meeting the president?
It was about 100 of us. I'd say a little under 100. And it consisted of both creators, like there were some actual front lines, video creators, podcasters, things like that there, along with many of us that have invested lots in supporting the creator economy as businesses and startups. And it was a really good mix. There were journalists there for a period, some great journalists, everyone from the founders of Tube Filter, who I've known forever, Drew Baldwin and Josh Cohen, to Taylor Lorenz, who I liken to the translator of internet and digital culture to older people. She's currently reporting for the Washington Post, but has her own kind of big brand. So it was quite a great group and an eclectic group. I would say I thought I'd know more people. I probably knew about 15 out of the 100.
Wow.
So it was kind of quite nice getting to meet a lot of people that I didn't know.
Chris, a common concern amongst people that are not in government is that government officials really don't know enough about certain sectors within the marketplace to effectively regulate, let's say. So I'm curious, in your experience in DC, did you find that the members of the executive branch, I imagine you met with more than just President Biden, but did you find that his team was knowledgeable about your business sector?
This is the first administration to have an Office of Digital. I don't remember these. I forget. I think it's the Office of Digital something, but it's the first administration to ever have this. And it's led by a gentleman named, who's literally like Director of Digital Affairs or something like that. And that covers everything from managing the POTUS Twitter handle, right? And feeding that to putting together these conferences. And they have a specific group that actually just focuses on creators. Generally speaking, I agree that the government doesn't understand this stuff enough. And I'm very fearful as it relates to things like AI and the speed at which they'll be able to regulate that. But being in the kids creator side, kids and families in particular, it is a highly regulated area with lots of actually current legislation being proposed and actually in the moving from the Senate to the House. And the White House seems to understand these particular issues a little better. I'm fearful that the Senate and the House don't quite as much. I think the White House has really made a concerted effort. There were other speakers as well, like the press secretary and folks like that. And they all seem to have a good understanding, not as good an understanding as we did, but that's why I think we were invited in for them to hear us and hear our concerns and challenges going forward.
Yeah, it's encouraging. I actually sat down with a few Congress people who sat on the Congressional Cryptocurrency Task Force, and they admitted that they need the experts in the industry to really help shine light and pave the way, that regulation and frankly, unlocking growth within the United States economy will come in an optimized way if they allow for the experts to come in. So it's good to hear that they gave you that platform. So of course, I got to ask you, what was it like meeting President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's just such an honor. I mean, you don't get to meet presidents very often. And he literally at a certain point was like right next to me, like basically talking to me in my row and just, felt very intimate. Fabulous storyteller. I think actually the highlight was when he kicked the press corps out of the room, I think, and it gave me an appreciation for what that must be like, because essentially what happened is he had some prepared remarks, probably took him about 8-9 minutes. They were largely directed towards this creator economy conference, but he edged it. It was a good day for him because he had he's able to now negotiate, the government can now negotiate Medicare prices for prescription drugs. That was a huge kind of deal. And he kind of slipped in some other things. And so the press corps was actually invited in for that particular period of the conference. And it was awesome because he as soon as he was like, okay, now I want to talk to this group, meaning us, not the press corps. And if you have a question, I'd love to hear from you. And then the press corps just starts screaming. I mean, they're just screaming and yelling, Hunter this, and and Kamala that, and blah, blah, blah. You can't understand a word of what's happening. And he's just like, okay, we're not enough for you guys. We're going to move you out. And then it was the next 20, 25 minutes was just us. And it was It was really
Did you ask him anything?
kind of special. I didn't. We only got, ironically, only one question got asked. The person who asked it was a creator who was so funny because later on he describes it as like, I got up and raised my hand. I didn't even know what question I was going to ask. I just wanted to ask a question. And I don't even remember what the question was. And the truth is, like, I was honored and it was a privilege. And it is very clear that Biden has been a great steward of the office of the president. And I have certainly felt a great sense of relief personally over the last 4 years relative to the four prior. And, but I did feel like, you're 81, you're doing the right thing. I felt encouraged by the fact that he had passed the torch along to Kamala. And, he deserves to retire. I'll be honest. Like he kind of felt like grandpa a little bit.
Yeah. So, Chris, what would you like to see the executive branch move going forward as it relates to policy specifically in your business sector? Like, I know you're saying there's some legislation and it's easy to default back to conversations surrounding children and protecting the kids. But if we move into like a different area that's not so obvious, from your perspective as an expert in the creator economy and this business sector, what could the United States do right now, let's say, for example, to unlock more commercial value, to like really, really put us in a position to, I assume it's fair to say we lead on a global scale with regards to creator economy. Maybe you could verify that for me, but assuming that's accurate, what could we do then? What could the government do for us to set a policy that will keep us in that lead position?
This is a really big question. And first of all, I'm a bit cynical, generally speaking, as it relates to the power of the platforms. And this is actually something that I have not spoken about prior, as I've ultimately wanted to retain as much diplomacy as I can with the folks that I do the most business with, which are the massive platforms, right? And I'm talking about Meta, and I'm talking about Google primarily, and YouTube, right? And Apple and Amazon, right? These companies have so much power. And when you look at it in the context of the creator economy, I always talk about this, and I do this more for sanity and for making sure my partners, my creator partners in particular, have sanity as well. But when you're a platform like YouTube, you have three constituencies. You have advertisers, you have consumers, and you have creators and publishers. And your prioritizations are in that order. You prioritize advertisers over everything else, and then you prioritize consumers, and the last people you care about, although you feign to, is creators, because you have an unlimited supply. And I honestly don't think there's anything the industry can do or the government can do to change that, other than one thing, which is somewhat controversial and has some downsides and cons, which is to break these companies up. And I'm not generally that guy who's calling for the breakup of these companies. But if you look at them, first of all, they're multi-trillion-dollar companies. We've never seen anything like that in the history of mankind. They have so much power. It is unreal, more power than the government in many, many cases. And I honestly feel like if you want to affect the relationship between creators and platforms, the only way to do it is to break them up. There's no other solution. I really don't know. All I know is that they are the least prioritized and have no power at all.
So you're the low man on the totem pole, even though you're bringing all the sugar and all the eye candy. But, I guess my question is this. It seems like there are so many platforms available today, even the idea of you creating your own platform. So is it really just the fact that like a brand like YouTube dominates the eyeballs and they have the viewership, and that's where you're limited? And do you want to break them up so that the viewership is dispersed in a more equal way across platforms? Because, even with your movie now, you have distribution across so many different streamers. You have distribution in brick and mortar theaters. But I would imagine that the audience is concentrated heavily with YouTube, perhaps the theaters, on Meta. But there are a lot of platforms. are you penalizing them for doing a good job in galvanizing the audience?
Well, no, there's always a middleman, is what I'm saying. Like, so there's always a middleman. There just is between me and the audience. Like, even people who are like, "Well, it's direct to consumer." It's like, no, you still got to go through the Apple Store, the Google Store. Like, there's really no such thing, right? So first of all, like, there's always this platform that sits in between you and your audience. I'm not saying YouTube doesn't do anything right. Like, they do plenty right. They're the only platform that pays creators.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I give them incredible credit for that. But we've gotten now to a place where their power is so great that you think about it in context of like government, for example. When government wants to do something, they're slow. They take comment from the industries that they're going to affect, right? And they invite conversation and debate around it. And then when they finally decide to do something, they give you what? A year, maybe 2 years to comply. Okay, contrast that with platforms and their enormous power. I have a majority of my content consumption is on YouTube, period, right? We do 10 billion views a month on YouTube, right? Yes, we're on 50 platforms globally, but that's the one that drives audience.
Chris, you're saying that Pocket.Watch today does 10 billion views per month on YouTube alone?
Yeah, we have about 50 creator partners. So that's combining our 50 creator partners
amazing
together. We have over 1 billion subscribers across 50 partners. So, we only work with the folks that kind of been through the Hunger Games of YouTube, if you will, the most democratic platform in the world for video ever, and have come through the other side, extraordinarily popular. And that's typically when we would partner with them. But I would say, let me get back a little bit to what I'm saying. The government takes a long time. They're methodical. They invite comment. They will say, okay, like what you did retroactively, it's fine. Here's going forward. Here's new rules. And you have 12 to 24 months. Contrast that with a platform like a Google and a YouTube. Every discussion they have that will affect me and the creator economy is done in private, completely opaquely, behind closed doors. I have no idea what those conversations are. I'm not invited into those conversations. I have no idea what they are. And then when they decide to change things, a policy, the way the algorithm works, or whatever, they announce it, say comply retroactively, immediately, right? I'll take the government all day long in that context, right? And so it does make it really challenging, despite the benefits of these platforms. And look, I love YouTube, but I'd love YouTube more probably if it wasn't part of Google. I think it would invite more competition. I think when the internet started, we all had this fantasy and this belief that it was going to be some open platform, right? And it didn't. It's not. It is literally reverted back to what every media has reverted back to, and there's 5 major players that control the entire internet globally. Like maybe outside of China, like you know what I'm saying? Like, so to me, I'm not a libertarian or anything, but I like the idea of a more open, more competitive.
Well, it certainly, if it is a competitive marketplace, it certainly allows for progress, just not with creativity, but with commercialism, with capitalism and beyond. And that allows for a better society. Why do you think it is that companies like YouTube don't bring the creators to the table when they're having those closed door discussions? Wouldn't it be beneficial to them if they included you early on in the planning phase and allowed for you to continue to unlock mutual value?
No, I think from their perspective, they're going to do what's right for them and their shareholders. And I think that to a certain extent is their responsibility.
For sure. They have a fiduciary duty to do so. Right?
And so I don't know. I think they care what creators think, but creators don't have any power. It's not like SAG, where like SAG can just go, okay, we're going to go on strike. And that's going to deeply affect the ecosystem around, content and entertainment content in particular, television and movies, streaming, stuff like that. YouTube and these other platforms, it's for every creator that decides they're going to walk out, there's another guy who'd just take his place and not care. And so I just think that puts creators in a very weak position. It's very hard to make them unite. It's very difficult to have any sort of power relative to the power of these platforms. And it creates a lack of competition as well. Like, I mean, I'm looking out at, when has there been a wave? When was the last time there was a wave of new digital companies? You know what I'm saying? Like that look like they're going to have anything close to the scale of the current group.
Sure.
Well,
I wonder, I often talk about the fact that platforms like Fortnite are going to have a very dramatic shift as it relates to the creator economy in particular, because the founder of Fortnite has created some incredible photorealistic technology, which I believe is going to allow for people to have a new delivery as it relates to shows, talk shows, different formats and entertainment. Fortnite, in my opinion, in 2-3 years from now, because of all of these new technologies, won't just be a multiplayer game with guns. It will be a new delivery system, I believe, for content, much of the type that you're talking about. When YouTube was groundbreaking, it was an interesting time. And I think we're on the precipice of seeing another disruption platform-wise with companies like Fortnite.
You're right. Look, I'm a big fan of Epic. I see it already as a platform, right? It is Fortnite Creative is an open platform to create games. They obviously also have Unreal.
Unreal Engine is incredible,
and
that's
what all the time.
That's what I'm referencing.
That's our animation.
It's exclusive to Fortnite, right?
Well, let's take this out. I will say, I have a pretty optimistic vision of what new technology will bring to the creator economy. I'm insanely bullish on this, right? And the reason I am, in part, is because Unreal is just a small piece of the puzzle. But what I always say is creators need 3 things to be successful. They need desire, they need skill and talent, and they need means. Okay? So let's look at means for a second, right? If I want to make Stranger Things or Avatar, the means that I require are hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay? The reason YouTube is synonymous with certain formats, whether those be podcast videos or toy unboxing or let's play gaming or vlogging, is not because somehow YouTube was uniquely set up to reward those particular formats. It's because that's what the monetization will support. Okay? Because that's what the creators had the means to do those formats, and those formats propagated a platform that was, that monetizes in a different way, more democratically, in fact, but one in which it's more difficult. Even the biggest creator in the world can't afford to make Stranger Things. Like Mr. Beast can't make Stranger Things. Right? So if you think about it in that context, these new technologies, whether that's Unreal or all the AI animation technologies, all the AI video creation technologies, I'm insanely excited about this, because the way I see it going is, and Spielberg said, I love this quote, if a pen cost $100 million, we'd have no William Shakespeare, right? And now the cost of making beautiful premium Avatar Stranger Things like video is gonna get close to the cost of the pen, not the hundreds of millions of dollars. And what does this do? This opens up a whole new world for creators that have desire and skill to now take advantage of these democratic open video platforms in ways that the monetization works on for premium content. And to me, I just want to get these tools in the hands of the best creators possible so that we start to see a new formats and new types of content that are way more premium, rooted in storytelling. It doesn't mean the other stuff's going to go away. I love Let's Play gaming and vlogging and podcast videos and all that. That stuff will remain, but we'll have a whole new class of videos. And then you think about what Epic just did with Disney. And I think about that as how existing IP, which I truly believe in, I think we all love to come together around existing story universes. I look at what they did with Epic, and to me, that represents the future of how creators intersect with intellectual property, with IP. So Disney invested $1.5 billion in Epic. And at the same time, is investing $1.5 billion. They did a commercial deal, which will make their IP available to game creators, game developers who develop games for the Fortnite creator platform, as long as Disney retains, I believe, approval and a royalty. And I could see that extending to video. And so instead of having like just one big Star Wars movie every 10 years or whatever, we're going to have like lots of Star Wars created by the creators in, you know, who are doing things that are as beautiful and as good as things you might find on TV and streaming and movies. And I'm very excited about the future of that world. And I almost feel like a pressure, like I'm behind already. Like I feel that sense of anxiety.
Is that the single most thing that you're excited about commercially right now?
Yeah. But I'm usually early. Like I will say, I'm generally early, but the AI stuff seems to be moving faster than I've ever seen anything move in my entire life. And, you know, I've been involved in early, you know, I was one of the first 100 at Yahoo, right? I'm early to everything. But this one is moving so fast, man. Our biggest partner is a little kid named Ryan, right? He started making videos when he was 4. He's 12 now. He just starred in this movie. And about a year and a half ago, we decided we needed to clone his voice for some animated stuff and dubbing, right? And so we used a cloned version of his voice. I had to put him in a recording studio for like, I don't know, 3 hours across 2 days to record 2,000 lines in order to clone his voice. OpenAI says they can clone a voice in 15 seconds now. I've played around with apps like Captions where literally I recite a 45-second script, 60-second script, and it has cloned not just my voice, but cloned me, right? And it's a talking head. Like, that's how fast this stuff is moving. So I literally think we're going to go from like, you know, Pixar level animation costing $2.2 million a minute to it costing $5 a minute in less than 5 years.
I agree. I had a meeting with the founder of Respeecher, which is arguably the strongest text-to-speech AI company. I think they're about number 2 in speech-to-speech right now, but closing in on that number 1 slot. And the technology, the advances are happening in an accelerated pace. It's really incredible what they've done. And the accuracy with regards to the replication of that voice is incredible. Respeecher was particularly interesting because they're being prudent and sensitive and cognizant of the fact that, you know, people can be tricked. Bad things can happen with these duplicates, right? So it's
in an election year, I think we're all a little overly, you know, I think I'm a bit concerned. Yes.
For sure. But let's go back to, like, you started the conversation using the word curious. I don't know if you remember, and you're highlighting Walt Disney. And I actually wanted to read to you a quote from Mr. Walt Disney that I prepared for you in this conversation. Walt Disney said, "We keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths." Again, we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. Mr. Walt Disney, amazing human being.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what keeps you curious, Chris? You're you said you're typically ahead of the curve, but you're a very curious person if you're ahead of the curve. So what keeps you curious?
You know, it's a great question. What keeps me curious?
You.
I mean, I really have always tried to be channeling my inner, you know, child. And that's probably the most curious I can be. I love geeking out, you know, like on topics that are just interesting to me. I've always been obsessed with this intersection of technology and entertainment. And I'd say those that really my driving force of my curiosity has been around that particular convergence. And it drives me, you know, it just really drives me. Like I literally wish I could take a year off right now and just immerse myself in everything AI entertainment and know it all. Like I literally, like, it pains me that I don't have like the time to immerse myself and indulge my curiosity because I know it'll pay off too.
It's even beyond AI though for you, like this content section, this intersection of content and tech. I mean, you're impacted with artificial intelligence, with spatial computing, with the delivery of content via VR, via AR. Even when you talk about the power of these platforms being too centralized. You could decentralize distribution with blockchain technology. I mean, the emerging technologies as it relates to your world, Chris Williams, individually, are beyond compelling right now. So is the technology keeping you curious, or are you curious as a person and therefore you're following the technology?
I think I'm curious as a person. I do think it's a necessary ingredient to being an entrepreneur. I think you have to, and you all, because it's the foundation for also certain decision making. I mean, it's like it runs deep curiosity for me. Like it.
I think it's like a sort of blessing in your life, Chris, honestly. Like if you think about it, I have a lot of friends, we're pretty much the same age. And I have a lot of friends, I'm sure you do too, who aren't as enthusiastic about their careers and building as you are. So do you find that now, like guys and girls in their mid 50s, and perhaps because they don't have that creative, curious spark, they're kind of just in their job and they're kind of moving through life without as much enthusiasm as you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know an equal amount of folks. I've always tried to surround myself with friends, and even within all my circles. Like I try and surround myself with like-minded folks who are curious as well. But yeah, there's a lot of people on cruise control. It also, we're getting older. It's a little more forgivable now. Like I get a little tired too, like everybody, and we get a little more tired than usual.
Yeah. But it's also shifting. Technology and content are shifting culture in major, major ways. So going back to Walt Disney, what do you think he would say about this place that we're in right now as it relates to content creation and delivery with the advent of these new technologies?
I mean, I think he'd be a kid in a candy store. I think the thing about Walt Disney
The
is that,
person we're talking about,
yes,
right?
yeah. The
Okay.
thing about Walt Disney is, despite all the changes, his original vision still holds. So Walt Disney created the concept of the franchise, and he literally had it's a classic. I don't know when you're editing this, but you pull up he has a drawing of what a franchise is that still holds true today, right? And he envisioned this concept of IP being more than just an expression of like a movie, right? Did it with theme parks and all, Ed TV. Like, I mean, he consumer products. I mean, he is the architect of the modern idea of franchise, and he would use technology and innovation to enable those franchise economics and franchise extensions, and I think that the core principles of what Walt described are just still totally there. So like everything is just an extension of that IP. And so he always put creator and creative at the center. And I believe that, right? I think you have to start there. And then, because it doesn't matter how good the technology is or how open the platform is or that stuff doesn't matter if people don't like it.
Right. Well, do people like it? Like going to Walt Disney, the company now, like I know that they've hit some choppy waters with executive management changes over the past, 18, 24 months. Stock was hit pretty hard too. They took some bold risks as it relates to content and positioning in an attempt to be inclusive. I think they also alienated a lot of their conservative base. How do you feel the company stands today as it relates to culture?
Well, having been, I did 2 stints at Disney, right? They
I
acquired
know.
two companies. One I started called Take 180, and another one where I was chief audience officer called Maker Studios, and acquired them back to back. So, and I do have a great love and admiration of the Walt Disney Company, incredible love and admiration, in
Me
particular
too.
for Bob Iger, and I think his return will mark a new era of success and growth.
I
Um,
agree.
but it starts with the creative engine. I think the creative engine was stumbling. You've seen it stumble in the past for Disney before. So, the first thing Bob Iger did when he got to Disney was he acquired Pixar, right? And that was really about putting a creative engine at the center of the company. And I think And now he's, taken a really hard look at those creative engines. And now within the company, those are much more vast than just animation, kids animation. Now it's, Marvel and Star Wars in particular, Lucas and Star Wars, and Lucas and Marvel. And look, I think I think they had a great summer. Like, I don't think anyone would have said, oh, Inside Out 2 will be the highest grossing animated film of all time, which it is. And then coming on with sort of the extended stuff, even the last weekend, Aliens, Romulus, which opened up to over $40 million, was a Disney movie. Like, it's not Disney branded, but it was part of their Fox acquisition, and they've really leaned into that. I'm extremely bullish on Disney. I would say the number one reason I'm bullish on Disney is because I believe in IP. And at its core, Disney owns the most valuable entertainment IP in the world by far. And there will always be another way to extend that IP that we haven't even thought of yet. And all these new technologies that we're talking about, like, they're going to be a boon for existing IP, whether that's, large language models having to pay to like search them, whether it's, embodiments in virtual reality, whether it's open gaming stuff on Epic and Fortnite. Like, it's always going to reward existing IP. And so as long as humans still desire to connect through storytelling and common stories that we all love and enjoy, and IP, like, I think Disney's we haven't even opened up all the possibilities. I mean, think about it this way. When Star Wars, the movie, came out in 1977, the business model for that movie was one row in a spreadsheet. And that row was theatrical tickets. Right?
Amazing.
We've come a long way from it.
So, Chris, do you feel that your company, Pocket.Watch, is a natural evolution for like the Disney business model, where at the core you're leveraging intellectual property and you're extending into different consumer touch points? Did Disney inspire you to create Pocket.Watch's business model?
100%. So Disney really inspired the creation of Pocket.Watch, primarily because they're so good at extending IP and content. And while I was there and I saw kids' video consumption habits drastically change, and I saw it in my house, I saw it in the data, but really seeing it change, and where that shift moved from traditional television channels like Disney Channel and Nickelodeon to YouTube, was profound. And, as a curious entrepreneur, I was like, why? Right? Curiosity. Why aren't we working with these creators who have bigger audiences and more engaged fandoms than anything we have on TV now, and extending them the way we would traditional franchise? I don't understand.
Interesting. Yeah. So were you the first to do it, Chris? Were you really the first one to take advantage of that new entertainer?
I think to do it at the scale and with the commitment and thesis, yeah, I do. I think certainly people have done things on the fringes that were extending creator brands, but they weren't saying, I'm going to do it like Disney. Like, I'm going to take Ryan's Toys review. I'm going to create a new brand called Ryan's World. I'm going to extend that into $1 billion consumer products licensing business. I'm going to extend that into a hit TV show with 90 episodes, to a feature film, to a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Those were all part of the original vision. And I don't think anybody had that vision prior to Pocket.Watch.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Pocket.Watch today, I'm going to get into Ryan's World in a second, but like Pocket.Watch today, you said you have a portfolio of over 50 different creators today. What can you name a few of the bigger ones that the audience would be familiar with?
Sure. This is primarily for you audience members that have kids in your house. If you don't, even though these are the biggest channels in the world, on YouTube, you might not recognize them, but Kids Diana Show, she's the most followed girl on all of YouTube, over 300 million subscribers across 20 different channels, translated into like 19 different languages. Her main channel alone has over 100 million subscribers. I mean, just massive. Toys and Colors, which is a channel I love. It's a lot of imaginative play, like pretend play. Which I think is great for kids too. And it's an ensemble, so it's a little more Mickey Mouse Club. There's like some adults and some kids, and it rotates and shifts, and so it's a little more Menudo or like Mickey Mouse Club to date myself. And that's actually, like, if you go onto Tube Filter charts this week, it's the biggest channel in the world. It's bigger than Beast. It's bigger than Cocomelon. It's the biggest channel in the world. Most viewed channel in the world. I think, you know, it's
congratulations.
Yeah, it's huge, and we have some things coming for them that I can't talk about, but those are probably the two biggest. We have Dan Rhodes, the most viewed magician of all time on YouTube, who's a 20-year-old, fabulously charming, awesome individual from London, from the UK.
That's so cool. I didn't realize that's yours. I love magic, so that's so cool that that's yours.
Oh yeah, Dan's the best, and we even had we've put him in some other things, and we're working on some big stuff with Dan too.
What's the nature of the relationship between your company, Pocket.Watch, and the creators? Is there an opportunity for you to take a piece of equity early on and grow that value proposition? Is it just more transactional in nature?
It's definitely not transactional. So we consider ourselves investors in these creators and building out their brands and their franchises. And typically the business model, you know, we're not agents and managers. And oftentimes our partners have agents and managers, and that's not us. We're more like the studio partner. So we do three major things with our creators. First and foremost, we think the most important part of brand building for those creators and for generating new revenue streams is to take their existing content that they're already creating every day, right? We curate that, we enrich it, we package it, we basically turn it into TV, right? We make 22-minute episodes out of it. We inject new types of content into those 22-minute episodes so that there's new, original, exclusive stuff in there. And then we're able to take that content, typically a season is 15 episodes, 22 minutes an episode, and then bring it to other third-party platforms, but not open platforms. So we don't like take their YouTube content and then bring it to Meta. What we do is we take it, turn it into TV, basically, turn it into premium content, and bring it to platforms like Hulu and Peacock and Disney Plus and Sky in the UK and Spacetoon in the Middle East and Astro in Malaysia and like all these closed platforms where you need to have deals and trust, and they're looking for people that, like, the creators couldn't get those deals on their own because those companies aren't set up to work with individual creators. They're set up to like license massive libraries from companies like ours. So that's the first thing we do. It creates new incremental revenue streams for the creator partners that they wouldn't otherwise have. And I call them but-fors. But for Pocket.Watch, that revenue stream would not exist for them. And two, most importantly, is it creates an adjacency to other content and brands that we think is critical for parents to accept their kids' fandom of those brands, because they've been media shamed about YouTube for a decade and they think anything on YouTube must be bad, right? But now when they see, you know, Diana content sitting next to Bluey on Disney Plus, their perception changes. Right?
For sure.
So
I get that. As the parent of a 7-year-old, I understand that.
That's part one. Part two is really almost strictly a monetization thing about YouTube. So YouTube, this is less about franchise building. This is really about monetization, but we do this for our creators and it's really important. The regulatory constraints associated with monetizing kids' content are pretty big. COPPA is the biggest one. It's the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. And what that means in a nutshell is brands cannot use data to target advertising to kids.
Got it.
So you have to use context. So I can't target you, Mark. I have to target the thing you're watching.
Got it.
When I'm targeting kids. And if you're Google, I'm pretty sure Google's number one way of targeting is through user data.
Right.
And targeting you as an individual. And so in order for them to comply with COPPA, they have to sell the context. And that's tough for Google, right? That means I can't use data if I'm Google, and I can't use online auctions. So that means if I want to sell advertising on kids' content on YouTube and I'm Google, I have to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, even if it's a $50,000 deal. And for anyone who's done any business with Google, no, they don't like to have a human talk to a human for under $10 million. Like that's like basically like the threshold. Like if you don't spend $10 million a year, you don't even get to talk to a human.
Amazing.
Right? And so we have done a deal with YouTube where we have the right to sell ads directly into YouTube Kids and Made for Kids content on YouTube on behalf of our creators and our own brands and content. We're one of only 10 companies in the world that have that right. And that's basically because one, we have the scale. I talked about the 10 billion views a month. That matters. And two is we're the gold standard from a regulatory compliance perspective. We're not going to get them in trouble. We're not going to get our partners in trouble. We're not going to get in trouble. We care deeply about being the gold standard from a regulatory perspective. So Google's sell-through on kids content for advertising is below 2%. That means for every opportunity to sell an ad, for every 100 opportunities, they sell less than 2. So many of the creators we work with, 40 to 70% of all their views and all their consumption comes from YouTube Kids, which monetizes basically at zero without us. And so we're able to bring a whole new level of ad monetization. So what we did off the foundation of that is create a division called Clockwork. Clockwork is essentially an agency that packages all of our ad inventory on YouTube, our ad inventory across all these other platforms that we do business with, where we have sales rights, so fast channels, our connected TV apps, our mobile games, with influencer marketing, with custom content from these influencers. We package that all together on behalf of advertisers and generate incremental value for our partners and for our company. And then lastly is new IP. So we partner with these creators that we're partnered with to create whole new intellectual property that is based on them, that's foundationally built on what makes them special, but takes it to another level. Maybe that's animation, maybe it's just bigger live action. And then we embody that in shows that we then distribute super broadly. And in great success, we can extend into all the franchise economics. So that means consumer products licensing, gaming, all the extensions from toys.
Incredible. So Chris, what you've done really is you've effectively you've identified a weakness within Google's ecosystem and took it in to build your own ecosystem.
Yes,
so
and they
to a
support
certain extent, you're controlling because you have now distribution that you could monetize coupled with the creators. So you're basically effectively running your own destiny because you're controlling this massive kids ecosystem.
Yes, I would say that. And also it's one that Google and YouTube embrace because we're bringing value to these creators that they can't bring. They don't want to bring. They're not investing to bring it, whether that's consumer products or getting their shows on Hulu or selling ads on YouTube Kids. Like Google's not really investing in that stuff. So they really embrace us and look, we consider ourselves very good partners with them, despite my calls to break up the company.
Chris, how big is your infrastructure? How many people do you have to help you support that ecosystem?
Well, full-time employees, we have about 55, but we obviously scale up big time for content creation. So
who's your competitor?
I would say we have a few different angles of competition. One is sometimes the traditional talent management ecosystem can be competitive, but it's not that we're directly competitive, it's that we're competitive with a creator mindset. So what I would say is that we do very well when we partner with creators that have long-term visions, that want to invest and create brand long-term and want to leave a legacy and create an annuity that lasts way beyond their prime, right? Those represent the greatest partners for us. We're competing against a mindset of transactions. And I don't judge this either. But a creator may decide, I'm at the top. I just want to slash and burn my way to as much money as I humanly can while I'm popular and take it off the table and just put it in my pocket and then I don't have to worry again. Like, honestly, I'm not judging. I totally get that mentality. Right. But that makes a difficult partner for us. And that's somebody who I would say, like, just go get an agent and manager and go,
But you're saying that from the perspective of, Ryan's World. I heard that Ryan's World is bigger than Mr. Beast on YouTube. Is that right?
probably not at the moment, but I think as a brand, Ryan's World is bigger than any brand ever created by YouTube.
I mean, if you look at revenue, I read somewhere that it's north of $500 million a year in revenue now.
Well, it's a little bit. I don't want to be. People take the raw top of the funnel numbers and they like to take big picture. Yeah, we've done $1 billion in retail sales, but there's a funnel there. But yes, they are set for life. Their grandkids, their great grandkids, their great great grandkids, multi-generational wealth. Massive.
How old is Ryan now?
Ryan's 12.
So he's a 12-year-old billionaire.
I wouldn't call him a billionaire, but he's certainly a 12-year-old who doesn't have to worry about his financial future. And he, look, the parents have been the gold standard for how to raise your kid in this in this context, which is new. And you have to be really sensitive to, there aren't a lot of rules and there's not a lot of regulations that govern this, and there should be. But in traditional entertainment, we have laws that say you have to set aside a certain amount of money for kids and things like that. Influencer world doesn't have that yet, but Ryan and his sisters own half the company. Like, they are fully and they have trusts and all the things, and they really represent the gold standard in terms of how to treat the.
In preparation for our conversation, I watched numerous interviews of Ryan's parents, and I heard his mother actually say in one interview that she really lets Ryan decide every single time as to whether or not he wants to participate, which I think is unheard of for such a huge property now. But that's accurate.
100% accurate. Yes, I mean, I think
nice people,
that working with them, and I give them a lot of credit for this too. Like this. The big move into things like animation and additional characters and surrounding Ryan with a world that doesn't require his direct participation. It's kind of the holy grail of what we're trying to do, where the movie is kind of like the epitome of that, right? It's
but Chris, that's the holy grail for any high profile person. When I was working with Cal Ripken Jr., he's like, I can't be in a million places at once. When I was working with Kawhi Leonard, his uncle was always like, how do we keep leveraging him and monetizing him without putting him there? So whether you're a child or an adult or a young adult, that's what you want to do, right? You got to scale.
Totally. And we saw a little bit, it's funny when we, with the movie, I can't have Ryan show up at every movie theater, right? Doesn't scale. If he did, every theater would be sold out, right? But what we realized, probably a little too late, but what we realized is we could send in the animated characters. And so we have the biggest animated character is a character named Combo Panda. That's kind of like Ryan's best friend in this animated world, and has been for the last 7 years. We have billions of views of content on Combo. He's got his own channel. He's a big star in his own right. And he's an animated character. But when I take that when I took a guy and put him in a Combo Panda suit, and put him in a movie theater, the kids showed up, So it's that mentality of we're actually seeing success and expanding the universe beyond just the kid Ryan. That's I think we're starting to feel good about that.
So from your space, I mean, it's nice that Ryan's parents seem to be very level-headed, kind people. It looks like they're really trying to do what's in the greatest interest, not just for their family, but they seem like very good commercial partners too. But you're always dealing with parents. You're dealing with a lot of situations of, quick fame. They think they know everything. They think they might know the industry better than you do. What was the biggest nightmare scenario from a parent that you've experienced so far?
Fortunately, I'd say it usually happens before we become official partners with them, right? We're really strict about how we vet. And the number one vetting, it's less about a straight background check, although of course we do all those, but to us, it's more do they share our values, right? And that basically means, do they want to do right by their own kids? If there's kids, not all of our partners have kids, but if there's kids, do right by your kids and do right by the kids in the audience. If you start there and we feel really good that that's where they start, we can teach them the rest. We create a creator handbook. We teach them how to do that. We inform them how to how long should a kid be shooting in front of a camera? How do you set aside money? How do you do proper disclosures? All the things, right? As long as they start there. So before, I did have one family where I literally I still would say this is a brand that I wish I had. Like, oh my God, the opportunity with this brand.
They're in the marketplace now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
And
they
it's
would be way more
successful. It's
successful
working.
if they partnered with us. But
Of course.
I walked away and honestly, it was a simple thing. It was like, this was like maybe like 2 days. We'd had like dinner with them and then a big meeting at the office. And it was a bunch of kids. It was like 5 kids. And one of my close friends was a huge fan. His kids were a huge fan from YouTube. And I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor and just like, can we make a little video where your kids say hi to so-and-so, where the kids say hi? And the dad turned into a freaking military man and was like, okay, line up, kids, get in a straight line. And I'm like, oh no, like this is not good.
I actually think I know who you're talking about because I think my daughter watches this.
It's very possible, but and they're amazing performers. Like I don't want to take anything away from the content they create. It's actually incredible. And they've actually been quite good with their business. Not as good as I think they would have.
But it was that moment where you said like, oh, they don't share my core values. They don't share my organization's core values and we don't want to be involved.
Yeah, this isn't going to work.
That's so good. I'm so proud of you.
There's probably ways for me from an arm's distance, like to potentially do that.
Though. It's tough to show that restraint, and like basically, you're allowing for money to sit on the table.
Hey,
it's
sometimes I regret it.
Great integrity. Nah, you've always been a person filled with integrity, and I love that, Chris.
Thank you.
You've given us a lot of time. I just have 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
Okay. The first one is this. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation where you mentioned that you have a personal relationship with our nation's vice president. I'm curious, is Kamala set? Is she ready to be the next president?
I want to make sure I've known her for a very long time. I wouldn't characterize like being close or having some sort of day-to-day relationship with her. Although she was running for Senate, she did call the House directly herself. But I've always been a big believer in Kamala. So we've known her since she was the DA of San Francisco. We had the good fortune to meet her at like a birthday party, and we have mutual friends, the Hudlins, Chrisette and Reggie Hudlin, who like are very much her besties. And I've been so blown away by her ability to inspire just in the last 30 days. Like she
galvanized.
It's incredible how she had.
I'm sorry.
I'd say she had a gear that I didn't realize she had, even knowing that. Like, there was this gear that I was like, wow, this is like you were saving this gear for like to be president. I was like, so I've just been blown away at that gear, especially that it's at the end of the day, you have to be able to inspire people at scale. And I think she is firmly doing that right now in a way that I knew she was inspiring, but this is like a whole new gear. And I've been incredibly impressed and feel really, really good about it.
Chris, every one of my guests ends the show in the same way with me. Basically, what I do is I leverage the show's name, Some Future Day. I start a sentence and I allow for them to finish. Are you game?
I'm typically game for just about anything.
So in Some Future Day, the creator economy will become
the entire entertainment and media economy. Like, I truly believe that with the tools and access to audiences that people with desire and skill to create and entertain have, that there will be nothing outside of the creator economy. Like in terms of entertainment and media, that will be that entire economy. Like, I really do believe that.
So what will go away? Will we see like the traditional houses, like the legacy media? Will they all disappear?
No.
It's hard to imagine, but in 10 years from now.
No, I don't. I think there will still be a layer of support that needs to exist, but that they will become more like Pocket.Watch than Pocket.Watch becomes like them.
That's cool. I hope that comes true, Chris.
No,
Thank you so much for all of your time and your sage wisdom and insight. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we shut this down?
No, just that it's been an incredibly engaging conversation. I love talking about the future. I love feeling inspired. I love trying to, make educated guesses about where the future is going to lead us. And sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm not, but I sure love the activity of talking about it and then skating to where the puck is and doing something about it and investing in it.
You've always been an awesome person, and I'm so proud of you. Congratulations with all of your success, including your beautiful family. And thank you for joining me today on Some Future Day.
My pleasure, Mark. Any time. You're the best.
I know your time is very important, so thank you so much for joining me today. For ongoing insights surrounding these important topics, you can join the conversation on my social media channels, including Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Mark Beckman. And to sign up for my newsletter on Substack, you can find me at markbeckman.substack.com. To make sure you don't miss a show, be sure to subscribe to Some Future Day across all major platforms worldwide, including YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Special thanks to New York University for producing Some Future Day, and a big shout out to my producer extraordinaire, John Boomhofer, for being patient and always encouraging me to push through. Thanks a lot, John. Have a great day.